Belize Watch. Knowledge of the past, impacting the present, building the future.
Jump and shout all over the nation. Breaking out with a new creation.
Bird's Eye View Lodge is a Belizean family-owned resort located in front of the Crooked Tree Lagoon. Aside from providing accommodations, the resort offers several tours. Guides Rudy Crawford Jr. and Michael Gillett took our Belize Watch team bird watching on the Crooked Tree Lagoon. We will have that for you after we hear from our partners. Shell Belize Limited, Honorable Kevin Bernard, the Belize Tourism Board, and DeBarry.
Where would I be without my mama?
Reaching out to all the beautiful mothers of Carmelita Village. This one you can't miss.
Thank you, Mama, for the 9 months you carried me through.
The Carmelita Village Council presents a Mother's Day concert like no other. It's all happening at the Carmelita Central Park on May 13, 2023. The Mother's Day program starts at 5:30 to 8 p.m. with a dinner, entertainment, games, surprises, and giveaways. And to top it off, you can win a 30-inch stove. Also, dress to impress because there will be a photo shoot by One Dan. After the Mother's Day program, it's all about the big concert featuring Punta superstar Toprik, all backed up by the Punta Kings Band. Music juggling by DJ Esco. So make it a date, May 13th, inside the beautiful village of Carmelita. See you there. This event is sponsored by the Carmelita Village Council and Honorable Kevin Bernard.
We are DeBarry, offering you great products, good service, and of course, the lowest prices in the entire country. Visit us in Belize City, Belmopan, San Ignacio Cayo, Orange, and now in San Pedro, La Isla Bonita. DeBarry. Get more? Be less.
Shell V-Power with 3 times more cleaning and friction-reducing molecules. Go well. Go Shell.
I am proud to be a Belizean.
I've always enjoyed the different flavors of my country. Every nook and cranny has its own unique taste.
Our history, rich with culture. We've come so far since our independence. Our flag, rivers, mountains, our people, diverse and strong.
Looking back, I am proud and honored. We must continue to preserve and conserve our culture and country for the next generation.
This is our Belize. Respect it, cherish it, love it.
It don't matter what part of the jewel they come from. You that you and me that me. But guess what? All are we the one. See what I mean?
All right, and we're off on adventure in the Crooked Tree Lagoon, and a very low Crooked Tree Lagoon at this. And our guide today is Michael Gillett.
Yes, sir.
Michael, thank you so much for having me on board. Right, and who was our captain again? Rudolph.
Rudy Crawford.
Rudy Crawford. You're rated the great old Rudy Crawford that was chairman for many umpteen years.
Father.
Oh, he's your father. Yeah. All right. So let's dedicate the show to the great Rudy Crawford then, because you know I remember Rudy Crawford very well, right? So tell me, Michael, we have just gotten into a boat. This lagoon is very shallow. It's very low right now.
Yeah, for this time of the year, it is very low, and actually it's a little bit higher than how it should have been for this time of the year due to Hurricane Lisa. The water, we did get a little flood, so what happened, the water level is still not as low as it should be at this time of the year.
I'm amazed at the role this lagoon plays, you know. This lagoon is a catchment area to prevent a major flood from just rushing down to Belize City. So basically all the water from the Belize River, all the flood waters would back up in the lagoon here, in the Crooked Tree Lagoon. And it's almost unbelievable as I look around to comprehend that it will cover all those bushes that are behind us when in a flood. You know, that's a whole lot of water this catchment area holds.
It is, and you know, it plays a very important role not only for the catchment, but during the rainy season, that's the purpose, the catchment. And as you notice now, during the dry season, it's also play a very important role because as we go along, we'll notice a lot of these birds out here. It's very important for them because a lot of these birds are only passing through. They're migratory birds heading back up to North America, and this is a big part of the food source for them to stop in and feed. And then as you mentioned, during the rainy season, all these excess water would rush down here and eventually drains back out, which through the creek, which is referred to as Black Creek, which we'll maybe get up into it a little bit. And that's where it drains back out into the Belize Old River, right around Maypen area. And then from there down to Belize City.
Down to Belize City, at the mouth of the Halova Bridge, around where the Halova Bridge is, at the mouth of the Belize River, right?
Yeah.
It's amazing though how this takes care of everything. This amazing Crooked Tree Basin, if I could call it that, you know.
Yep,
and it makes Crooked Tree a beautiful island too.
You'd refer to it, you know, it's an inland island, and the causeway, which was only put in since 1983. Before we had the causeway, which was before my time, you know, that's how people used to also travel to get down to Belize City, or, you know, anywhere traveling around from the island itself is going down through Black Creek out into the Belize Old River and then down into Belize City. So, you know, we do during the rainy season with the excess water, it does cause a little problem for us here in Crooked Tree from time to time, where we would actually get a flood, where a causeway would go underwater. You know, people who lives along the shoreline homes would get flooded. But it's something, you know, people able to adapt to, you know, over the years, because it's, you know, that's what we growing up used to. So, you know, we put in necessary, you know, people make necessary arrangement or you know, like put in certain.
Yeah. So as soon as you see a lot of rains coming, you know, definitely you'll have this area will get flooded. So you start to move. You put your plans into effect. Your moving plans
into effect, and you know, make necessary evacuation, what you need to do. But you know, with the lagoon this low, where it will get even lower. At this time we're out here, we're not even a canoe able to float anywhere out here. It will narrow down into this whole channel that we're traveling through, which will be about 10 feet in width and less than 3 inches in depth. That would be like the end of our dry season, which is end of May. And, you know, so it will get even lower than how it is right now.
Well, it's amazing, you know, and for a layman like me that looks at the comparison, to see, for example, over there we have those cows grazing in the middle of the lagoon, right? So we have the cattle grazing in the middle of the lagoon, but at some time or the other, the lagoon itself will rise above the bush that we are seeing there, right? You know, it's just, so yeah, that means you have to know what you're doing and move your cattle out of the way, you know, when the rainy season starts.
Yeah, because, you know, within the lagoon can be where you can, you know, pretty much take a car anywhere out here. And within 24 hours, you can take a boat anywhere out here. That's how fast for the first part of the rainy season, the lagoon can get pretty fill up, you know, not to the extreme where we'll get a flood, but, you know, where it can get pretty high pretty fast. So, like, in the case of the cattle, sometimes they do get trapped out here after, you know, the first big rain for the beginning of the rainy season. So, you know, like, you just got to keep updated with your weather and, you know, make sure you're prepared for the upcoming rainy season coming on to the end of the dry season.
Move your cattle in time. Yeah. Now, where are we heading to, Michael?
We're heading slowly up to Black Creek, where normally we would do this tour where we have boat creek that is connected to this lagoon, which both of them they're connected to the Belize Old River. We have Spanish Creek, which is impassable to access right now due to the water level, but we're heading up to Black Creek, which is a closer creek, just across from the lagoon here. So
You mentioned Spanish Creek. I know that there was once a battle that was fought at Laboring Creek, which I'm thinking it might be the same creek. Is there another creek known as Laboring Creek?
no, it's the same.
It's the same Spanish Creek, right? It's the same Spanish Creek. So there was a battle at Laboring Creek known as Spanish Creek, right?
Spanish Creek come all the way up from Rancho, all the way up through Lemonal down to Crooked Tree. So that Spanish Creek is actually the creek that feeds the lagoon with water, and then Black Creek usually takes it out. But in the case of rushing water coming down, like when the water is really high up in the mountains, we Black Creek able to run both ways. So Black Creek also able to bring in water if the water is really, really high in the river. So the lagoon able to fill up pretty much faster at that time. So whenever we're, like we hear a flood up in Kaya, up in San Ignacio, then, within 3 days to 4 days, that water will be down here in the northern lowlands here. So that's when, we usually get like a 3 to 4 days notice to be prepared for that flood water coming down.
I understand that there was once a threat of invasion that came up the Belize River from San Ignacio up the Belize River and were stopped at a fort at Laboring Creek, which is the same Spanish Creek I think you're talking about, right? The same Spanish Creek. People from Belize Town paddled furiously upstream in order to be there to assist in repulsing that attempted invasion. And I guess that's why it's referred to today as Spanish Creek.
Yeah, Spanish Creek. Because the same, well...
I'm just hazarding, I guess, because man, I want to make two. I know about the battle, I read about the battle, but, Laboring Creek.
Yep, but, it's the same, because you have waterways that goes all the way up, you have the Mopan River, the Macal River, one coming out of eastern Guatemala, one coming out of the highlands of Belize, forming the Belize Old River. So that waterway comes, all the way up. People have access to that waterway to come all the way down to, if you want to come as far as Crooked Tree, even go all the way up to, Carmelita waterway during the rainy season. So, yep, it's all connected.
So it just shows how amazing things are. And I understand that when Crooked Tree Lagoon gets flooded, it sort of almost spills and become one with the New River Lagoon. Is that so?
Yeah, well, it's not really connected, but if the water
spills over.
Yeah, it will spill over at some point if it's really, really extremely high, but it rarely does. We do have Dawson Creek, which runs across the New River Pine Ridge, which at some point, that would flow, that would share the Pine Ridge, some going to New River, some coming into our lagoon. So there is a creek that runs across, but it normally don't, flow over if it's not really an extremely bad flood. We're getting extremely a lot of rain. So
but there's some interconnectivity between both lagoons.
Yeah,
that's what you're saying.
Yeah, but that's something that actually some of the villages was thinking about. Making a canal for the north where it would spill over. So just at the level of the causeway, whenever we get to that level of the causeway, the water would spill over into the New River. So it would prevent a flood, a free flow continue down, because all this water that comes here would actually have to turn back and go back into the into Black Creek. So it's
backs
not
up in here.
Yep, it just backs up.
It's like a big basin.
Yep. So and it will have to flow back. Yeah, exactly.
But it's amazing how. And today we are going to look for some birds. You're telling me, Michael?
Yeah. Right now it's the perfect time for bird watching out in the lagoon. Because of all the migration happening. A lot of these birds that we see out here that comes past through are birds from North America, but we also get our resident species out here, which would be here all year round. But at this time of the year, due to the low water, it's great feeding. They can eat as much as they want. So they're all concentrated out here. Bird watching for Crooked Tree here is a pretty big thing. It's one of the top 5 or top 3, I'll say, hot spot for bird watching in the country. And at this time of the year, most people would come and visit Crooked Tree to see the Jabiru stork, which is like one of the signature bird for the area, because it's one of the largest flying bird in the Western Hemisphere, and Crooked Tree is one of the perfect spot to see it at this time of the year. So, hopefully as we go along, we should be able to see one of them. And apart from that, we have a lot of different birds out here that people come here to see, especially the bird watchers. They have target birds that Crooked Tree is much easier for them to get those target birds when they would come and visit.
How many species of birds, more or less, you would find in this lagoon?
Recorded out here, we have like little over 300 species recorded for Crooked Tree itself. On like a trip like this, on a bad day, we'll get maybe little over 50 to 60 species on a trip like this. And that's just a couple hours trip. But if you should spend like an entire day, you can get easily over 100 species on a day, on a one-day tour.
So there's a constant flow of people coming doing bird watching here in the lagoon, right? I take it.
Yep. We started, usually from end of December, January, February, March. Those are like the peak season, for bird watchers to come through. And we have big groups. Some people travel just couples. Yeah, that's a limpkin over there.
Who is that? Yeah.
It's a limpkin. And after this area here became a sanctuary after they put in the causeway in 1983. In 84, it became a sanctuary, which is run by the Belize Audubon. So a lot of these birds now, they're protected, not only by the Belize Audubon, but also the local villagers. In the past, I understand, before my time, some people actually used to eat these birds. Like, like the limpkin, they would say that would be like, the Sunday meal.
Yeah.
Which, it's...
That's another limpkin over yonder, right?
Yeah, those are all...
One flying there?
That's a green heron. The smaller one, green heron, and the bigger one, limpkin. Yeah, but, now... None of these birds, they're hunted, they're all protected, and they're doing really, really well when it comes to, the population of them. The limpkin itself, an interesting thing about that bird that a lot of people don't know, the vocalization of that bird is actually using the movie Jurassic Park.
Oh, yeah?
Yep, they use the call. It's a very loud, screaming song. And that from that and the black howler monkeys.
And those flying over
those are... cormorant, neotropic cormorant. So, even though this lagoon here, oh, that's a big turtle. Yeah, even though the lagoon is connected to the Caribbean Sea, the salt water don't back up all the way in here. So this lagoon here remains as fresh water. So in Belize, we get 2 different species of cormorant, a neotropic cormorant and also the double-crested. So inland here in the freshwater, we'd get the neotropic. 99% of the one that you'll see around in Belize City or on the Keys, those ones will be double-crested. So, it goes with habitat also. Some of these birds go by habitat. So some birds that will get inland in the freshwater, and we won't get them out on the coast or on the Keys.
Over there, we just saw that's another...
green heron.
Green heron.
Yeah, green heron. So also in Belize, we get 9 different species of heron. The green heron being the smallest of the 9. Local refer to it, growing up as kids, we would know that little bird as Pojo.
Pojo, that's a Pojo flying there, right?
That's the name that most people would know them as, Pojo. And, due to how they sit. And then this little one here, this is
this little guy here.
Yeah, that's a jacana, but it's an immature jacana, northern jacana.
Yeah, okay, it didn't move.
Yep, it's a young bird. It can fly already, but, it just don't have the adult plumage. And, local refer to those ones as the Jesus Christ bird.
Okay.
And that is due to the long toes that they have. They would walk on these floating vegetation.
They're walking on water, no?
It seems like they're walking on the water. but they're actually walking on the floating vegetation.
What about those over there? What are
Those are snow egrets, white ones, snow egrets. And they actually have a bright yellow feet, which they use as a feeding technique. You'll see them patrolling the shoreline. Every so often they would stop and they would shake that bright feet, and that would attract the little smaller fish, and that's how they would trick them and catch them. So they...
And that lonely guy up there? Look at it. It just flew away.
The red-winged blackbird?
That one.
That's the red-winged blackbird. So like in the case of the red-winged blackbird, a lot of them, they used to migrate down, and then they would all go back around this time of the year from now until May. They would head back, but now we're actually able to see that bird all year round. So some of them decide, they're not taking the long journey back and forth every year, so we actually start to get resident species of them.
What I find amazing is the difference between the Crooked Tree Lagoon and the New River Lagoon, for example. The New River Lagoon is so deep, right?
Yep.
And the Crooked Tree Lagoon is so shallow,
Yeah, because what happened with the New River Lagoon, it's more like a spring fed versus this one, which is a overflow for the river. So this one goes with rain, but the New River Lagoon is more like a spring fed. So they don't, that actually don't really, always bringing up water, and it's a much deeper lagoon versus this one.
Much deeper.
So this Crooked Tree Lagoon, it's referred to as a seasonal wetland, meaning it dries out and it can get as fill as up to in the case of flooding.
Because the water we are skimming over right now is maybe about a foot or two?
Yeah,
about 2 feet deep?
About a foot. In most cases, about a foot deep.
These little guys in front of us here, who are
Those
they?
are the snowy egrets. Snowy egret. Those are the one with the bright yellow feet as it flew off.
The same one we're talking about.
Yep. And then majority of the vegetation, as you can see, along the shoreline, those are referred to as the lagwood. That's what that's how this village actually got established and discovered, when the British were here.
Lagwood.
After they harvesting the lagwood, they came all the way up from Belize City up the Belize River into Black Creek, and then out here looking in search of the lagwood. So along the shoreline here of the Crooked Tree Lagoon, pretty much right around the lagoon, that's all you'll see growing along the shoreline. Lagwood.
Yeah.
Lagwood.
So it's a very important area for lagwood, really.
Used to use for the indigo dye, and now local would still use them, like especially the villagers, but they would have to get a permit first of all to cut them. And the good thing about harvesting the lagwood now, they would harvest them from these big green tree, but they're not cutting the green part. They're pruning the tree, getting the straight dry part, and that's the part that they would use for fence posts, barbed wire fence posts.
Who are these guys here?
Those are the grackles, great-tailed grackles. Those are, you'll see them around in mostly they like to be around in residential area. But due to the water level, everything is out here now because it's so easy to get food. So all different birds that would come and concentrate out here in the lagoon. Yeah, and as you're going along, you see with the level of the water right now, the birds are happy and the fishermen, because it's much easier to catch with the...
you can always put your hand in the water and grab a fish.
Yep, and what we get out here, most populated fish out here would be the tilapia, and tilapia is an introduced species to the country, but it's one of the most caught by the fishermen out here, due to it's better for commercial, better for business. They would catch them and fillet them and sell them to these local restaurants, and it's much easier for them.
Those flying over there would be what?
Yeah, those are cormorants also. These are more cormorants.
25 of them? 25,
yeah, they would be in large flocks, up to over 100 of them, from time to time.
Follow a lead apparently, no? They do?
Yeah, they move around depending on the water level, and they would, like I said, they would fly in large group, one leader.
Another crowd there. So, what about 5 or 6 or 7 different?
All of that, even though you see them flying, every so often you'll see them perch, whether it's on the bank or up in the trees with their wings out. And the reason for that, they don't have enough oil on the wings, so they got to dry it out, in the sun or in the wind, which the advantage they have to that is, they're able to dive deeper and faster. But the disadvantage, they got to come up and dry it every so often, because that's how they would get their food. They would dive down for food. So with the less oil on the wings, they're able to dive deeper and faster. Yep.
But the way the lagoon is, so they don't have to go very deep at all.
Oh no, right now they don't need. It doesn't matter because it's pretty shallow, so they don't need to go deep to get fish. And so there is the more mature jacana now, the old Jesus Christ one.
Jesus Christ bird. Yep. One that walks on water.
Yeah. And, they have that long toes, so they're able to balance on the water. But also an interesting thing about those old jacana also, the male is the one that have to do all the hard work.
Oh yeah?
All the female does is lay the eggs. The male will have to make the nest, incubate the eggs, take care of the babies. Meanwhile, the female jacana, she will just move on.
I will tell you about the ones over there again, but remind me the name.
Those are limkin.
The limkin.
Limkin and green heron. Yep.
Yeah.
Snails also, apple snail, we get a pretty healthy population of them out here.
Those edible?
Yeah, well, for people they do edible, but here it's not popular in Belize. People don't eat them here in Belize much. I know across the border they make ceviche out of them, but in Belize, people prefer the conchs. So, but it's a very important part of the food source out here also when it comes to, from the snail kite to, other birds, limkin, wood rails, they all feed on them. Even the crocodiles. Oh, there's the pink ones. Rosette spoonbills. You see the pink ones that just took off?
We will have much more from our bird watching tour after this break. Let's hear a word from our partners. Shell Belize Limited, Honorable Kevin Bernard, the Belize Tourism Board, and DeBarry.
Reaching out to all the beautiful mothers of Carmelita Village. This one you can't miss.
Thank you, Mama, for the 9 months you carried me through.
The Carmelita Village Council presents a Mother's Day concert like no other. It's all happening at the Carmelita Central Park on May 13, 2023. The Mother's Day program starts at 5:30 to 8 p.m. with a dinner, entertainment, games, surprises, and giveaways. And to top it off, you can win a 30-inch stove. Also, dress to impress because there will be a photo shoot by One Dan. After the Mother's Day program, it's all about the big concert featuring Punta superstar Toprik, all backed up by the Punta Kings Band. Music juggling by DJ Esco. So make it a date, May 13th, inside the beautiful village of Carmelita. See you there. This event is sponsored by the Carmelita Village Council and Honorable Kevin Bernard.
We are DeBarry, offering you great products, good service, and of course, the lowest prices in the entire country. Visit us in Belize City, Belmopan, San Ignacio Cayo, Orange, and now in San Pedro, La Isla Bonita. DeBarry. Get more? Be less.
Shell V-Power with 3 times more cleaning and friction-reducing molecules. Go well. Go Shell.
I am proud to be a Belizean.
I've always enjoyed the different flavors of my country. Every nook and cranny has its own unique taste.
Our history, rich with culture, We've come so far since our independence. Our flag, rivers, mountains, our people, diverse and strong.
Looking back, I am proud and honored. We must continue to preserve and conserve our culture and country for the next generation.
This is our Belize. Respect it, cherish it, love it.
It don't matter what part of the jewel they come from. You that you and me that me. But guess what? All are we the one. See what I mean?
You mentioned crocodiles just now. Crocodiles here?
Yeah, we get crocodiles.
Look at that there. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Well, those are.
Those are the cormorants, so you can see that flock was actually drying out their wings.
Yeah.
You know, because
a whole lot of them, hundreds of them.
Yeah, mixing with some snail kites, some white ibis. Hopefully they will stay as we get around the corner. But yeah, back to the crocodile. We get Morlet's crocodile here in the lagoon.
In the lagoon?
Yep. As we get up into the creek, we should get where we can actually see one. Most of them head up into the creek where it's much deeper. So like for the crocodiles, the turtles, and some of the fish that don't get trapped out in the shallow water here, that's where they would go and spend the dry season. So whenever the rain starts, they would all come back out into the lagoon here. In crocodile, we get Morlet's crocodile in the fresh water. The one that you'll see like on the Keys or on the coast.
The American crocodile.
Yeah, saltwater American crocodiles. So in Belize, we get two different species. Turtles, we get common slider turtle, we get a species of snapping turtle, we get some mud turtle, and then we get the big famous Central American river turtle, also known as hikiti.
Hikiti, yeah.
Yep, so we do get that out here, but they would be more up in the creek right now because they like a little bit deeper water. And we also get manatees out in the lagoon when the water is higher. We get a species of saltwater snook. We get tarpon, they would all come out here when the water level is higher during the rainy season. But right now it's pretty low, so we don't get that type.
But I'm amazed at the amount of birds around here. You keep hearing about it being a birds watcher's paradise, and it sure is, as we can see. Because the amount of birds we see just moving, some of them moving out of our way, I guess.
Yeah. They move around, like I said, they're not, see a couple of the pink ones flying just around the corner there. Those roseate spoonbill, they gotta find the right diet to keep that pink color. If not, then they'll also, just turn into a white bird that remains white, but as long as they get the right diet, freshwater shrimp and different crustacean, which adds the keeping that pink color.
What would be their diet?
For the
special type of fish, or?
No, they would feed on crustacean and like shrimp. Shrimp, one of their main diet. And apart from that, the other birds would mostly be fish and apple snail. Just as we get right around this corner here, so like I mentioned, the lagoon would get even much lower.
It gets lower than where we are right now?
Yep, where we can actually take a car across this area. So before we had the causeway, like I mentioned, which was only put in since 1983. This area right where we're at is referred to as bridge. That's how the local from the village, that's the pink one.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so the local from the village would know it as bridge, and this was where, maybe a couple of weeks, like 2-3 weeks in the end of the dry season, they used to have a bridge across the creek right here. So when people used to drive across, bring their car to Crooked Tree, this is where they would cross the creek. Over on the left, over on the right would be totally dry land. So people would only able to access Crooked Tree, for maybe a couple of weeks out of the year. and that is end of the dry season where they're able to, when they would able to drive across the causeway here. I mean, cross the lagoon. Sorry.
So this is the area where the bridge was. You're telling me that
Yep.
the people would bring their cars and.
Yeah, that would be only, like I said, maybe 3-4 weeks the most that car would able to access Crooked Tree from this point here, because we're just at the entrance of Black Creek here.
Okay.
And if we should go maybe another mile or so, we get into what we refer to as a pine savanna or pine ridge. So they would cut pine, put it across the creek here, and they would drive, back in those days it was mostly Land Rover. So they would drive their car, Land Rover, across, and from there you can drive along the shoreline and access the village. And we used to have a big event, usually in May, which was a horse race. So people would actually come to the village at that time of the year. But whenever you're there, people who are actually in their vehicle, they tend to be a little bit uncomfortable because, 24th of May, that's when we usually get a big rain. And as long as a rain like that would catch you in Crooked Tree, that's it. Your car got to spend the rest of the rainy season in Crooked Tree because, normally as long as we get that, as long as you get that 24th of May rain, that's it. You can't drive the lagoon. It will probably still be dry, but not where a vehicle can drive across it. So, people always keep looking up, hanging out, but looking up because they want to make sure that big rain don't catch them in Crooked Tree because they will be in trouble.
Lagoon floods. It really floods. And it's such a big area. It's a huge area. Any idea of how big this Crooked Tree Lagoon area is?
To go to make because as the water, this body of water would go completely around the Yep. So to do a complete loop, we do it, track it more or less miles wise. It'll be like close to like 28 miles or so to go all the way around. Because where we do from Crooked Tree, from the lodge up to where we'd go, which we refer to as the entrance of the tip of the island. That's like 7 miles. And where Crooked Tree, where the lodge is, from there going north, it's like halfway. So this is the front part alone is like 14 miles. And then that goes all the way around. So to make a complete loop, it's like
miles.
Roughly about 28 miles.
Yeah, so it's amazing to see a 28-mile circular basin. That just I could imagine the amount of water that's held back here.
Hold a lot of water, and even though you'll say, oh, it's so dry now, it will take a lot of water, but with, like I said, within couple 24, 48 hours, the lagoon can get pretty filled up. So
what I can remember coming here in a flood, and actually the boat, it was a BDF boat, really steaming over the causeway. As the causeway, you look at the causeway and you're really right.
You can actually drive right across the causeway. That causeway,
almost touch electric wires.
Yep, at some point that the causeway, I think, growing up as a kid, as I can remember, the deepest flood that I experienced, where that causeway went like 7 to 8 feet underwater.
The causeway is 7 to 8 feet underwater.
Yep.
And right now at the causeway is about 7 to 8 feet above water right now.
If not more.
Yeah. Right? So you could imagine you're talking about about 20 feet of water.
Yeah, 20 feet roughly, from dry to
top gallon.
Yep, to top gallon.
That's a lot, It's an amazing area. This is an area that I think we should get to know.
Yeah,
as a matter of fact, you whet my appetite now. I have to come back again and turn a whole day out here.
Yeah, and like right now, if you're here like maybe I would say 3-4 weeks ago, would have more access to move around more freely throughout the lagoon. But right now we're just restricted to only the little channel that runs throughout the lagoon, and so at some point in time, maybe you can come back where you can see it from a different, where you're a little bit higher level of water, where you can move around, getting closer to the shoreline and, see a little bit more.
I definitely will. We'll head towards Spanish Creek. You said it's not far away.
Yeah, Black Creek, we're just behind us
Oh,
here.
Black
So,
Creek.
yep, so we'll get up into Black Creek. Spanish Creek, we won't be able to access it because it's a little bit further down to the southern end of the lagoon and it's much more shallow.
Okay, so let's go to Black Creek.
Yeah, Black Creek, that's where we're head just behind us here. So Black Creek, used to be, it is a more historical creek when it comes to how people used to travel. When they used to transport the logwood and the mahogany, Black Creek was the creek that they used to use because it's a closer access to the main river. Yep.
So all these things are connected to the Belize River, imagine. And all the water that flows in here flows out just in front of Belize City.
Yep, just at the Hallover Bridge.
The Hallover Bridge. Okay, so we are on Black Creek right now?
Yeah, Black Creek. So Black Creek, it's not only important for the people of Crooked Tree, but you have people who used to live along the Spanish Creek, which is farther south from here, farther south. So like Rancho and Limonal. So for those folks who used to live in those areas, to get to Belize City, they would have to come all the way down Spanish Creek out into Crooked Tree Lagoon and then come and catch Black Creek and then down Black Creek out into the river to get to Belize City. So their journey was much longer, like almost double the journey versus the people here from Crooked Tree.
It just goes to show that in the old days, the only way to get from point A to point B was by water, right? You want to come from San Ignacio or Santa Elena area or Benque area, you had to come by water. All the villages along the roadside were on the water, on the riverside. Even here in the river valley, everything was connected by river or creek or something like that. So all these communities that are here in the river valley were actually interconnected by water.
Yep, so that's how most people used to travel, no roads, so pretty much everyone no one had a car, everyone had a canoe, or what we refer to as dory. Dugout, yep, dugout canoe, so that's how people used to travel, and for Crooked Tree, in the case of Crooked Tree here that I know about, that, they told me, emergency, which back in those days most people used to have their own home remedy.
Yeah.
But if you get into a situation where you have an emergency, no ambulance, no airlift service, so what they would do in those days, they would get a group of guys, more like what we consider the more stronger paddlers from the village, and they would take that person down to Belize City, and so that was our emergency way of getting someone to the hospital, or getting a group of guys from the village and canoe them down all the way down to Belize City.
So
right here we want to catch this. This is also another highlight of the lagoon, the birds, the boat-bill heron. There is one back there, and there's another one. So the boat-bill heron, it's a night heron. They usually be active at night.
But he's out the smiling for us.
Yeah, well, they're getting a little bit of the sun, but you won't see them active feeding throughout the day.
So that's him up there?
Yep. Boat-bill heron.
Boat-bill heron.
Huge eyes. The upper part of the bill is like an upside-down boat.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, they would roost during the day, then at night, that's when they would come out and patrol the shoreline. They would feed mostly on fish, frogs, apple snail, pretty much whatever they can get at night. But they sleep during the day and come out at night.
So we're lucky to see at least two of them just now. All right. 3, 4, 4, 5, 6.
They usually roost in flocks, but sometimes they tend to be in very dense, dark areas, so they're a bit difficult to see during the day.
This is an experience I think most of our students and people who love history should have, because this is a very historical part of our country, at the midsection of our country.
Yep, it is, and goes, like Crooked Tree, for example, it's one of the older Creole settlement in the country, which, is established around in the 1750s. That was when they were here harvesting the logwood and then, went on to the mahogany trade. All of those was harvest in Crooked Tree also. And, but the community had come a long way from since then. We have a population of roughly about 1,000 people now. Most people, a lot of people do harvest the cashew. And, also we have the fishermen who, actually make and earn a living off the fishing. So there is a lot to do in Crooked Tree when it comes to, people earning a living honestly.
I'm amazed at how you all protect this area. You take care of it, and the bird population is extremely healthy.
Yep, it is. A lot of it is, the area is run by the Belize Audubon, which they play a very important role for us here in the community. But, also the local, they got to protect what is there for them also, because, eventually if they don't protect it, we won't have anything. So without the help of them, the people, to help protect whatever is here, the natural resource of the village, without them, then, they can also help destroy it if they don't protect it. Yeah. So some of them actually, like I mentioned earlier, they earn a living. That's how they live. So you have to protect what you live off. And
that is for sure. Other than that, you will definitely lose it if you don't protect it. Well, Michael Gillett, we are in front of I've seen so much logwood along our route, and the foundation of our country was logwood, really. When the settlers, the early settlers would raid the Spanish vessels taking logwood from the state of Campeche in Mexico to Spain, and they would raid that, and then they found out, let's move inland, and they found that as they moved inland, they found the abundance of logwood along our waterways, and we have seen a whole lot of it since we embarked on this trip.
Yep. So the logwood, that's like it's the most of the trees that grow along the shoreline and like around the freshwater, the lagoon and the rivers, the creek that we're in. Most of them, they're logwood. And the name logwood, it was one of the first wood that was logged in Belize, actually, as you mentioned, and
it was used for dye.
Yep, for the indigo dye, yep. And that color of purple or mauve, it's like a color of royalty to the British. So in those days that dye was in high demand. So that's what they were in search for. Up all the way up at these rivers out in the lagoon, it's all logwood. And interesting thing about the logwood also, those logwood, like as we can see that one that we we can see actually the root system is exposed now. But come certain time of the year, that root system part of the trunk would be underwater, so they're able to grow in totally dry land, and up to the point where halfway or 3/4 of the tree would be underwater, and they would be just fine. Okay. So they can grow from one extreme to the next. And like I was mentioning earlier, that they actually use them now for barbed wire fence posts. But the good part about it, it's not you're not cutting down the green tree, you're pruning the tree, getting the straight dry part. And as long as you put that in your barbed wire fence, that would last you a lifetime. Yep. So that's why they prefer to use the logwood. And some people who still, what we refer to as, fire heart, traditional cooking, they prefer to use a logwood firewood because they said, it burns pretty hot, it don't give off a lot of smoke, and it give your rice and beans a better flavor. Yeah. So that's also why they would use the logwood firewood for cooking also.
But way back in those days, in the 1700s and perhaps in the early 1800s, the economy of this area depended strictly on logwood, right?
Yep.
It was the harvesting of logwood that brought people more inland to Crooked Tree, to all the villages that along the river valley and what have you. So the whole river valley was settled because of the abundance of logwood that was found along the freshwater waterways.
Yep. So, that's what brought people, starting a lot of these community, like I said, Crooked Tree, Lemonal, along the riverbank. And you have Doublehead Cabbage, Bermudan Landing, Flowers Bank. All those communities started because of logwood, harvesting logwood. And, so, it was a big part of the economy, as you mentioned, in those days. And we still have a abundance of logwood, but they don't use them as much.
Yeah, I noticed it's an abundance in this area, and I'm glad this is a protected area, because it's a whole abundance.
In this area, they do, like I said, they do a little bit of cutting, but you'll have to go through a process to do that. You have to get a permit, and it's not for outsiders. It's only people from the community would able to get that permit to do so.
It's harvested in a sustainable manner.
Exactly. So that's a good thing. And
but it's good. It's good to know because of the importance of it to our very own history as a nation. And our national anthem refers to that, and the mahogany that took over from it, because when the dye was invented, the synthetic dye and the logwood trade died, the mahogany trade picked up, and so pretty much these waterways were used for mahogany purposes as well, because the mahogany also grew in abundance in the area.
Yep, they used to also harvest the mahogany in this area here, but when it comes to the mahogany, there are more slow growing trees, so
and they never have a replanting process, which was really a pity in those days. They did not replant.
We still have a little bit of them, but
not like before.
Yeah, not like before. Yeah. But also with the logwood, just if you get out here and should chip off a piece of that bark, put it in some water, immediately see it start to release that purple color. So a lot of people look at the logwood and you have no idea cutting that logwood, the color that you can actually get from it. Like these kids, they don't know about these type of trees and what it's all about. So that's something interesting that a lot of people don't know about the logwood. Just like the guys who would cut them, like if you cut it with a chainsaw, just the dust from the chainsaw and a little bit of moisture touch that dust, immediately see it start to release that purple marvish color.
So here we go. Nature has blessed thee with wealth untold, and that's what our national anthem says, and it's right here in nature, and I'm happy to see that all this is being preserved here in the Crooked Tree area. And I would like to encourage as many people as possible to come to Crooked Tree and get to know this area. This is a wonderful ecosystem.
Yep, and we're always welcome. Whoever want to come and visit, we are always we'll welcome you with open arms, and learn a little bit about your country, because a lot of people don't know about Crooked Tree. They hear about it, but a lot of people haven't visited this year. But I think after this, I think some people would be interested in learning a little bit about a little bit more about the history, and in Belize in general, it's such a beautiful place. There is a lot to see, a lot to do right here within your country.
That's right. It's the most beautiful country in the world. Michael Gillett. So this is a very important area here where we are at. This where the three waterways meet. Really.
Yep. This is it's like a key spot or a hot spot where you have down the entrance to Spanish Creek.
So this is Spanish Creek that we're looking at right now.
Going down towards in that direction, yeah.
And Spanish Creek would take me where?
All the way up to Lemonal and Rancho. So that's how during the dry season, like I said, you're restricted to only follow the channel. So, when the water is high, you can shortcut here and there, but, traveling during the dry season, like for those folks coming from up Spanish Creek, they would have to follow this channel here. So they would have to come all the way down and to enter Black Creek off to the left there.
So from Spanish Creek now we go into Black Creek, which is where we just came out of Black Creek over there. So it's like this they would go. And then Black Creek would take you to Belize City. to the Belize River and then on to Belize City.
Yep. And then off to this way, it's out into the open lagoon.
This is the Crooked Tree Lagoon
Yeah,
here.
this is the Crooked Tree Lagoon.
This side over here now would be the Crooked Tree Lagoon, where we are heading to. I mean, we're going back to where we left from.
Yeah.
But I just thought this was a very important juncture here, where you have the three waterways really meeting.
Yep.
So people from Crooked Tree will come down this side. People from up the River Valley area would come down here, and obviously catch Black Creek onto the Belize River, then into Belize City, and that was those were our main highways.
Yeah, those are our main highways. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So much more difficult for them to travel during the dry season because, as you notice, we're out here and we can barely get along with the shallow water. So imagine.
Only in the lagoon.
Yep.
The creek seems to be pretty much okay.
Yeah. Well, because from here you still have quite a ways before you get into the main. Like the deeper part of Spanish Creek. So you still have a little bit of shallow water to deal with, before you get into the deeper part of Spanish Creek. So, you're bringing your supply to sell, take them down to Belize City to sell, in a canoe, Sometime you will actually have to come out of your canoe and push it along. So, it was really difficult during the dry season, When the water is high, it's a little bit easier, but much more difficult during the dry season, dealing with the shallow water and canoeing through this type of water here.
Yeah. So I can only imagine. Yeah, it's a very good experience. I think this is an experience that most Belizeans should have and put it in the correct context. I could just imagine in those old days, people just paddling down here, heading that side, and if they want to go to Crooked Tree, they come up the side, so it's a main crossroad.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Or cross river. Cross waterway, whichever one you walk on.
Yeah. Meeting point.
Meeting point.
Yeah.
When we come back from this break, Rudy Crawford Jr. takes us inland to a spot that many bird watching enthusiasts enjoy. We take a break to hear from our partners, Shell Belize Limited, Honorable Kevin Bernard, the Belize Tourism Board, and DeBarry.
Where would I be without my mama?
Reaching out to all the beautiful mothers of Carmelita Village. This one you can't miss.
Thank you, Mama, for the 9 months you carried me through.
The Carmelita Village Council presents a Mother's Day concert like no other. It's all happening at the Carmelita Central Park on May 13, 2023. The Mother's Day program starts at 5:30 to 8 p.m. with a dinner, entertainment, games, surprises, and giveaways. And to top it off, you can win a 30-inch stove. Also, dress to impress because there will be a photo shoot by One Dan. After the Mother's Day program, it's all about the big concert featuring Punta superstar Toprik, all backed up by the Punta Kings Band. Music juggling by DJ Esco. So make it a date, May 13th, inside the beautiful village of Carmelita. See you there. This event is sponsored by the Carmelita Village Council and Honorable Kevin Bernard.
We are DeBarry, offering you great products, good service, and of course, the lowest prices in the entire country. Visit us in Belize City, Belmopan, San Ignacio Cayo, Orange Rock, and now in San Pedro, La Isla Bonita. DeBarry. Get more? Feel less.
Shell V-Power with 3 times more cleaning and friction-reducing molecules. Go well. Go Shell.
I am proud to be a Belizean.
I've always enjoyed the different flavors of my country. Every nook and cranny has its own unique taste.
Our history, rich with culture. We've come so far since our independence. Our flag, rivers, mountains, our people, diverse and strong.
Looking back, I am proud and honored. We must continue to preserve and conserve our culture and country for the next generation.
This is our Belize. Respect it, cherish it, love it.
It don't matter what part of the jewel they come from. You that you and me that me. But guess what? All are we the one. See what I mean?
Well, we have traversed the length, or I should say the breadth of Crooked Tree Village, because now we are on the other side of the lagoon. You're coming from Belize City, you go through the village, and then you come about 4 miles down, right?
That's right.
And you have the rear part of the island and the lagoon, and we have crossed it.
Which we refer to as the Blackburn area. So this is the western part of Crooked Tree. So basically, we're in the farmlands of the village. Okay, this is where a small percentage of the people from Crooked Tree would farm, and mainly it would be cattle farmers in this area.
And the voice you have just heard and the person you have just seen is none other than Rudy Crawford Jr. And Rudy Crawford is the son of longtime Crooked Tree stalwart Rudy Crawford Sr. Your dad was a great man from Crooked Tree. I knew him very well, Rudy. Maybe we can look a bit at your dad's history with Crooked Tree before we continue our discussion.
Well, my father was, first of all, he was a great man, all right? And he was a chairman for the village. He was even referred to as the father of the village because of that reason. He was a people person, basically, and he would put interests of others from this area first. That's how he served as a longtime chairman for the area.
Yeah. I can recall him very well on my previous visits to Crooked Tree many, many years ago, meeting him and having conversations with him and the passion that he would have for the development of Crooked Tree. He was very passionate about the village. I think most of these fairs that we have today, Crooked Tree Day, Crooked Tree Cashew Fest and all these things, Tilapia Fest started with him.
Well, after the village became a sanctuary, he was one of the men that decided that, we have to provide a means of income besides just making it a sanctuary, but also giving back to the community. So that was part of, brainstorming work by himself, Mr. Jex, a few other people. And that's, the great idea of the Cashew Fest, Tilapia Fest, that's how it came about.
So let's look at the memory of Rudy Crawford Sr. Through his family. Tell me about the family. It's more about the family.
Well, we're a big family. That's the first and foremost, very, very extended family. We're all connected, and Crooked Tree is our home. All right, Crawfords, the last name Crawford. When you hear it, automatically you think of Crooked Tree because this is our roots here.
No, you said a big family, but I'm talking maybe about the immediate family now, your brothers, your sisters, your mom.
All right, so we'll jump right into that. So it's a family of 9, okay? 5 boys, 4 girls, and that's basically our household, 9 of us, besides my mom and my dad, which would have been 11.
Mm-hmm. And you are
I would be the 3rd youngest of the siblings.
Mm-hmm. And you are a tour guide, right?
I am a tour guide. I am a bird enthusiast, okay? It's my passion. You could almost refer to birding for some people as a obsession. Once you start it, it's very hard not to like it.
No. Tell me, why should I come to Crooked Tree? And I know why, because I'm here. But I want to hear it from you as a tour guide.
Well, as a villager, as a tour guide, I would say one of the main reasons to visit Crooked Tree, the first thing you think of is cashew. You think of basically cashew. Crooked Tree has a reputation for cashew nuts. But as a tour guide now, I'll tell you that the ecosystem here, we have, because of such a rich ecosystem, we have so many habitat that, is home for more than 300 species of birds. And if we should do like a total bird count for this area specifically, I would just say just the sanctuary itself, I would say at least 400 species.
Wow.
And, beside water birds, we have migratory species and, basically winter visitors then. So we have a variety. And as you could see earlier, if you saw the lagoon, you could tell that we're very rich with food source here for these birds. But not only birds, we have other non-avian species such as manatees. Right now the water level is too low for us to enjoy that. Also, we get otters and, all sorts of wildlife, especially since we're in the dry season.
No, the manatees, I found that interesting because the manatee is a huge animal, or huge mammal, right? Now, a manatee, the lagoon is dried, right? Very much drying up and what have you. I mean, we came across the causeway there just now and we did not even see water. I mean, we saw water, but very limited quantities. How does the manatee survive? Where does it go?
Well, to answer that question, this is a seasonal wetland, first and foremost. So in the rainy season, what you're seeing now is completely different from what you'd see from June to November, okay? Right now we lost approximately 12 feet of water from the main body itself. So the manatees would then move with the water flow to Black Creek, which flows out to the river. So they come in. For us, it is a seasonal sighting.
Okay. Yeah, I had that experience earlier going up Black Creek, and I could see the connection that exists between Black Creek and the Crooked Tree Lagoon. Of course, that's one of the areas where the water comes in and goes out.
That is their main water source. So to mention a little bit about Black Creek and Crooked Tree itself, the body of water, we get huge volumes of water, but that's mainly in the rainy season, okay? It rains up in the west, and, Crooked Tree itself it's a site of major global importance. It stops a lot of flooding, okay? We will suffer the consequences here, but that's all right. We save a lot of areas along the Belize River Valley, and especially going to Belize City. So this is a huge trapment basin, and that's also the reason why we're so rich in ecosystem, is because it goes from one extreme to the other. So it goes from dry to extremely full with water, and then just creates a whole lot of habitat.
It's a unique ecosystem, really, when you think about it. That's why I trust so many birds and different species, because we even saw crocodiles and iguanas, you name it. I think most of the species that would be attracted to this kind of flora and fauna was around.
Absolutely. I like to refer to this place as a little paradise, and that's not because I live here, but there are very few places in the world like this, that has the effects on wildlife in general. And I don't know, but Crooked Tree is very famous for, I'm looking for the jabiru storks, okay?
Yeah, the jabiru.
Now that's the largest flying bird in the Western Hemisphere, and that's basically because he stands about 5 feet tall. Wingspan stretches over 8 feet. And this area here, Crooked Tree Wildlife Sanctuary, is one of the strongholds throughout Central America. So that we can boast for.
We saw a few jabirus this morning. They were at a little distance, but we saw them while we were doing the bird watching a little earlier and today, and I certainly enjoyed actually being in the water with them. I mean, even though we saw them from a distance. But talking about this ecosystem here, we came over that causeway there, right? When you look, you see the water and the foliage, the grass, and so way down. But whenever there's a top-gallon flood, the water would flood even to where we are standing. Would that be true?
That is very, very accurate. So normally, right where you're standing, this would be the highest point of the water level for the Western Lagoon. So looking in that direction now, that would be at least 8 feet of water going over the causeway.
Yeah. So you could imagine going down that causeway under 8 feet of water in a flooding season, and look at the distance where the shoreline is. So it's a huge lagoon.
It is
a huge catchment area.
Well, to mention the island itself, I refer to it as an island because Crooked Tree is an inland island.
Yes, it is.
You know, the island stretches for about 7 miles. Okay, it's just a rough estimate. And then we have this huge body of water that goes completely around. So we basically are, we're talking about over 20 miles of waterways, more or less.
20 miles of water.
Yes.
So I know the first causeway we came over connects you from the main highway leading to Orange Walk Tongue. But this one that we just crossed at the other side of the island, where does this road lead to?
So this road actually leads to the Blackburn area. Okay, Blackburn, that is the farmland like I mentioned earlier. And then it actually connects you to Orange Walk Town. That is if you turn right to the north. And then you could also connect to Lemonal from here, and it brings you right back around to the River Valley area. Okay. So this is the main connection here in the north.
Okay. So the Crooked Tree is pretty much central in the middle of almost everything, right?
That's why we're so special. We're in the center of everything.
Yeah. Center of this huge lagoon, center of all this production area, So I can see why, and it's a very historic village. I understand over 250 years old. Huh?
Exactly. It dates back well to the 1700s, way early 1700s, and that's because of the logwood industry. That's part of our history. That's how this area was built. It was a camping site, and then hence you're looking at a village with approximately about 1,000 people or more.
Mm-hmm. And I have to commend Miss Verna, Miss Verna from Bird's Eye View Lodge, because she put on a display of what the area is all about. There was a rice display, which you can see why at certain times of the year this area would be ideal for growing rice, right? And she put so there's a rice display of beating the rice and what have you. Then there is the cashew, and then the use of the logwood for dyes. We saw the different dyes that the logwood would make. And I think visitors could readily appreciate that because it's the history of our country.
Exactly. Most people probably don't even know what a logwood tree looks like.
Yeah.
Or why it was harvested. Or the reason why it was harvested. And it was big because, for the textile industry. That's for one. Dyeing, yes. So it was, that was gold for the British people at that time, if I'm not mistaken,
the
and the Spaniards,
well.
yes. So we didn't
Europe on a whole.
Yes, in general, and just to mention, Crooked Tree is we're blessed with logwood. We don't use it for any sorts of income right now, but for that time it was a major source of income. But the reason why we have so many here is because it's a tree that grows along the freshwater area, and we're all freshwater in this lagoon here.
And it's beautiful, beautiful. Rudy, I enjoyed my visit to the other side of Crooked Tree, right? The side that we normally don't get to see unless you are from this area. That was a wonderful experience. You brought me to a Pine Ridge area on the island. Where are we?
So we're on the south end of the island. So Crooked Tree in general is basically pine oak habitat, which you don't see all of that when you're in the center of the village, but when you come to the less populated areas like where we're standing right now, then you really appreciate, the habitat the village offers by itself, which is, oak and pine. And this, so Crooked Tree before we got, I can't say nice roads because I enjoyed the white sand roads that used to be there years ago, and that's the reason why we have so many cashew here, is because the island itself is very sandy, very, very sandy. And right where we're standing here is what we call the Northern Bent Bill Trail. So this is one of the trail we offer to our guests, bird watching guests that comes to the area that wants to see, like for example, this area here is very popular for like what we refer to as regional endemics.
Regional endemics. Break that down for me.
We don't have true endemics, so bird that is only found in this area. So I use the word regional because it is within the Yucatan area. Okay. So and just to give an idea of what I'm referring to is like, Yucatan jays. We have Yucatan woodpeckers and a pretty long list of birds that's found only in the Yucatan. But for Crooked Tree, bird watchers come here because it's almost a guarantee, which in birding we cannot use the word guarantee because bird flies. They have wings, they fly, but here it's much easier.
More than likely.
More than likely you'll get to see them here. That's right.
And the variety of birds here, how big is that?
So when jays are typically between, 11, 12 inches. They're big birds. And then, because we're in pine oak habitat, we offer a lot of the songbirds for this area, like, warblers and stuff. For, guests that comes here, it's just an amazing list, for people who we refer to as listers. They get an incredible list, just from Crooked Tree itself, but not just, for Belize, we get over 600 species, and for Crooked Tree offers half of that. So we get over half the bird species for this area. So
it's a must.
It's a must. It's a must visit. Yes, this area you have to visit this area here.
So people will just come with their list of birds, and when they spot one, they just tick it off as they go down, right?
As a lister.
A lister.
Yeah. And that's why we're very popular for birding in this area, because it's just easier for bird watchers. We offer a much easier habitat for those people.
And how long is this particular trail that we're on?
So this trail, it's about half of a mile, okay? It goes straight in one direction and then it loops to the right. So it's straight and circular. So, yes.
And about how many visitors do you get coming here, more or less, for, let's say, in a month's time?
Well, I would say easily, when we're catering for bird watchers, it's becoming one of the biggest trends in tourism. That is no secret. So that is why Crooked Tree is popular. But to answer your question now, numbers-wise, I would say at least, in a month, we'd get at least 100, 150 guests. They would come as birding groups, or they would come as just a couple.
And those are the ones you know about?
Yes. Yeah, so, we boast a very healthy population of birds, and that's because we have the ideal habitat here.
You certainly do. And like you were saying, this is an oak and pine area.
Yes, and surprisingly, most visitors that come to Belize, it's normally a wow, because you come to the subtropical region like Belize, and you think of rainforest, lush green forest, not expecting pine and oak. But this is what we have to offer here.
Plus, you also have the rainforest, the greenery as well.
Absolutely.
Like we saw in other areas. And then, of course, Crooked Tree is the land for cashew.
Well, that is no secret. We're the land of cashew. Yes, that is no secret.
So, all in all, you have a wonderful village here, Crooked Tree Village, in the middle of the Crooked Tree Lagoon. So it's an island, technically. Of course, in the dry season, you walk across.
That's the advantage. But
in the wet season, don't try that. You gotta swim unless you come via the high causeway that they're building, because they're building a new causeway right now.
A very, very neat looking causeway indeed.
Yeah. And on that, when you really get floods, the island will be cut off. But the middle of the island, like where we are, is very high. So this never floods.
No, this area will never flood. That is a very accurate statement. It's basically just the shoreline of the island itself that will be suffering from, when you have very unfortunate case of a hurricane, or, not you don't have to be a hurricane, but just, very intense rains could cause serious flooding here.
Yeah.
It don't matter what part of the jewel they come from. You that you and me that me.
Oh, all right. Well, it was fun, Rudy. Thank you so much for this exciting experience. I certainly enjoyed my walk through this pine. What you call it again?
Pine oak savanna.
Pine oak savanna.
Yes, sir.
Right, and the species of birds that we saw, and well, we even see woodlice nest.
Yeah. Well, it's my pleasure. I'm very happy that we could share the beautiful island of Crooked Tree with, everybody. And, locally, we really encourage, local tourism. So if you're a Belizean, please get to know your country.
That's right. Well, Rudy, thanks again for your kindness and for showing us around, for the fact that this is the first time that I have seen Crooked Tree in this as deep as I've seen Crooked Tree. First time I've been to the other side of the island, and it's the first time I've been on this trail that we are standing on right now, and really, it was fun. So I need to tell you a big thank you for hosting us and for guiding me through this. And I know you have an intimate connection with the Bird's Eye View Lodge, and maybe you might want to talk to me about that connection before we sign up.
Well, first of all, thank you too. And then, I've been guiding for Bird's Eye View Lodge, for a few years. And, they offer, one of the best hospitality, if I'm allowed to say that.
Mm-hmm.
And, catering mostly to bird watchers.
Mm-hmm.
And, myself as a bird guide, it's birding is my passion, but also be able to work from home and offer to guests, this beautiful village of mines. And well, I can't say mines, that's very personal, but
it's yours.
Yeah, well, technically, but just be able to share it with everyone and just share the beauty and it's just really nice.
What inspired you to become a tour guide and in your village?
Wow, that's a good question, and I like that question. So, as a kid, my father bought me a pair of binoculars when I was 11 years old.
Okay.
And just being able to look at the feathered friends and get a very up close and personal look. You really appreciate you get a whole new aspect of nature in general.
Mm-hmm.
Just the in-depth beauty of birds, not just birds but other wildlife, and that's really that was a starter for me. Just be able to see things closer and better.
So as far as you can remember, that was something you had inside you, something that you really wanted to do with your life.
Absolutely. So, birding for me is not just, birds of Belize, but birds in general.
Have you ever been tempted to go and live somewhere else outside of your village or Belize?
I don't think I've even had the slightest idea of moving to anywhere else. This is, for me, it's home. It's just a one-of-a-kind place.
I think you're fortunate, Rudy, because you appreciate what you have around you. You appreciate what you grew up with, and so you have grown to love what you grew up with, and you have made it a part of your life and your livelihood. Maybe before we leave, we could maybe talk to other young people, because you're fairly young, about how important it is to follow something, a passion that you have inside you, and to become what you develop as a child coming up, and what you feel and how it makes you happy.
Exactly. I think for every youngster that have a passion, I encourage everyone to You know, don't. It shouldn't be just a dream, but you should pursue it, and it could end up being your greatest happiness.
So you followed your dream, basically. That's what
Yes.
That's what we are saying here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, your dream was to be exactly who you are right now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Showing off your village, and
just being, a tour guide. When you think of it, it is a seasonal work, but just the fact that you're able to share information and in the sense of educating people about your village and history and wildlife, it's just an honor to do that.
It is.
Yeah.
It's an honor and a privilege, and it's great to hear you talking like that because, it brings me to what I always say, that if we love what we do, then we don't really work. Right?
You don't. Yeah. So that is a very, very true statement, and that is something that I live by. So, yeah.
And happiness is really found in doing what you love to do and being able to make a living off what you love to do, right? And once you find that niche, then you find love and happiness.
That is true. Yes, sir.
But love is also a choice, right?
That is a choice. Yeah.
So what would be your interpretation of love?
You just find your deepest passion and just go for it, because your passion normally, that's what you love.
Yeah. All right. But then, love is also a choice. And these shows, how we end these shows, Rudy? Well, we have to shake hands because I want to thank you so much.
Absolutely.
All right. For being a part of our show today.
Yes, sir.
And for
thank you, too.
taking me to see more of Crooked Tree, courtesy of Bird's Eye View Lodge.
Bird's Eye View Lodge, that's right.
And Miss Verna, I want to thank Miss Verna very much, too, for facilitating all of this.
Absolutely.
So, but, I could feel the love here on Crooked Tree. And love is always a choice. And so, what we usually say when we choose to love is Belize and beyond. Thanks for choosing love. Belize Watch. Knowledge of the past, impacting the present, building the future.
Celebration time. It don't matter what part of the jewel you come from. You that you and me that me. But guess what?